Okay. I really want to thank everybody. Is this loud?
Yes.
Okay. I really want to thank everybody for coming today. It means a lot to all of us, and it would mean a lot to our mom as well. I can say that as far as what I'm going to say today, it's a jumble in my head. So it could be a lot of thoughts. It could just be a lot of feelings. I'm not exactly sure. I have a few words written down on the paper, but I could not succinctly put them together. So bear with me, and we might need an editor like my cousin at the end of this. So I guess I'll start with, we learned that our mom was taking a turn for the worse. She's been declining over the years, and in many instances, she would decline, and we'd think, okay, this could be it. And then she'd bounce back in Judy fashion. She really just didn't want to give up the fight. But this time, years have gone by, and she was, less capable from the physical standpoint to be able to bounce back. So we did know that she had taken a turn for the worse. I spoke to my mom on Friday, and a lot of the time it could be maybe I talked to her for a minute or maybe 2 minutes, and she'd put down the phone. But this time she ended up chatting for quite a long time, and that is her version of chatting, where I don't really know what she's saying, but she is engaging with me. And so mostly I talked about how we are all doing and asking her, what else do you want to say, Mom? What else do you want to say? To give her that space, because whatever's in her mind, she did want to say something, and I'm just not sure what it was, but it allowed her the capacity to express something. And at some point in that whole conversation, which lasted actually almost a half hour, which is remarkable, I talked about gratitude for my mom. I recently, and kind of over the years, have made some of the dishes that she's made in the past. And I wanted to express to her, like, I recognize, like maybe in the moment I didn't ever recognize like how much work and effort that she put into basically everything she does, whether it was cooking or baking or taking care of us or taking care of the kids and the grandkids or whatever it was that she was engaged with. But I wanted her to know that we were all very, very appreciative. So I was very relieved, to be honest, that I was able to speak with her on Friday and that we did have that last conversation. So I want to say about my mom that she was an incredible woman. She was brilliant. She was enthusiastic about life. She was passionate about the things that she got involved with. She was a completely devoted to her family and to her friends and to the people around her. I would consider my mom and our family in general growing up as being people that like to gather people around them. If there was somebody that wasn't invited somewhere, for instance, for a holiday, they would be included. From a very early age, my mom would take us to the library. That was always in her DNA, being able to read books and share books. And eventually she made it a career. In addition to that, I would say that my mom was a champion for, and it could be louder, it could be quietly, a champion of civil rights, human rights, social causes, LGBTQ causes. I mean, things before her time that maybe other people weren't so loud and vocal about. She was. I remember distinctly how important it was to have a Fair Housing Act so that everybody would have an opportunity to get a home. Okay, I am riffing here, so I'm gonna look and see the things that I wanted to say. So I was the firstborn. I made my mom a mom. And I think about it from a different perspective now that I am also, been a mom. And I think about how incredibly difficult it must have been as a 21, almost 22-year-old, having a baby that was premature, very sick, and her also having her own health issues at the same time, all colliding. I think about that and just being a mom in general and starting a family and having kids, it's a huge challenge. So I think about her and how she mastered that. And I really appreciate that. I know that I was not the easiest child and that I know that I got on her last nerve plenty of times. But in the end, I would say that we had a deep appreciation of each other. I feel like she gave me some good advice over the years that I took to heart. I would say, so what was important to them was gathering. We had the parties, we had the garden party, we had the New Year's party. And the amount of effort that they put into that, I would say that my mom, my grandmother, and my Aunt Donna were the original 3 OG superstars. They were the squad. And they were the ones that ran the roost. And they made things happen. And we all, as a family, could count on them. For good times, when we were mad, when they were mad at us. I'll tell one story about my mom and me and just family misunderstandings. So one story was I was in middle school and I had to dress up as something in middle school. And so I dressed up as, I believe it was a clown, and then you had to give a presentation. And so I borrowed my dad's hiking boots. And all went well, no problem, except that I lost a shoelace. And so I came home, and I believe my mom probably was having just one of those days where she's working, she's dealing with all the things of being a mother, being a daughter, which was a lot in itself. And so she flew off the handle. She was livid. And for years, I couldn't understand, what was the big deal? It was a shoelace. Why would anybody care about a shoelace? So fast forward, probably a decade or more, we're all sitting around the kitchen table at my grandmother's, and somehow that story came up. And all of it, and somebody was saying about the shoelace. And my mom erupted in laughter. And so everybody can just imagine in their brain my mom laughing. I mean, belly laughing as she did was a sight to behold anyway. And then it catches fire. So pretty soon, like everybody is rolling on the floor laughing, 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 laughing. And it wasn't until that second that my mom realized that I didn't lose the hiking boot, I lost the shoelace. and, and so that's a good story about my mother. I would say another thing, I was not an easy child. I was the oldest, I pushed the boundaries. I was the one that kind of paved the way for my brothers to have maybe a little bit easier time. I don't know. Or maybe in a different way, they had a hard time. But so this is probably a description of generosity. So in my high school, in my senior year, I was in this program called Senior Seminar. And so we did different modules. And one of the modules that we did was a courts and law one. And one of the things that you could do in this courts and law module was volunteer to either go into a jail and be like a prisoner to see what that would be like, or you could have somebody in the jail come out and live at your house for a few days. So I volunteered to have somebody from the jail come to our house and live. And I specifically remember this because, I mean, I was nervous for sure, but I think about my parents and me as a parent, I'm like, the heck, like I would never do that. I would never let my kids bring somebody from the prison to live at our house for a few days. That guy's name was Mike Davies. I remember it to this day. And I remember both my parents trying to navigate this idea of this person who had just come out of jail. We had the long list of who to call in case he left or in case he stole stuff or whatever it was. And walking around the garden, showing the flowers, you know, like whatever it is, my mom hiding her jewelry. It all worked out, but I was that child. And my family basically, and it, you know, let me do it. So I give a lot of credit to that. I also just want to say that devotion. My mom was extremely devoted to her family, to her friends, to her grandchildren. Our entire family, it was what she did. And so I think that for me, it was really important. I moved away. I had my kids in California. And so for me, kind of like my quiet love language to my mom and to my family and to my whole family really was to make sure that my kids were able to come to Denver a couple times a year so that they could have those relationships with their grandparents, with our extended family, with their cousins, aunts and uncles. I think that that was all very important. And I think that, you know, the idea of all of us coming to be with the Denver family was always a good treat for everybody. You know, there's always their challenges, but it was a good thing. My mom and I weren't necessarily the ones that had these heart-to-heart talks, but every once in a while we did. And I remember I was struggling when I got separated, and I was trying to figure out where's the boundaries, like how do I be this single parent and be a good role model for my own kids. And my mom said to me, do you want to have long-term relationships with your kids? And if you do, then you need to remember to do this rather than, and look at the bigger picture and nitpick about other things. And so it really stuck with me. And I feel like that was something that I embraced, and it allowed me to have the space to be able to be a single parent to my kids, and not and stop bickering about how much internet they were on or whatever it was. I think that she gave me license to do that. And overall, I would just say that one thing that my mom, she had a quote that was always important to her. And so I used to do calligraphy quite a lot. And so I created this quote for her that has basically traveled from her house to the first assisted living to the group home that she is at now. And it was this: there are two lasting bequests we can give our children. One is roots, the other is wings. And I believe that she gave that to us. And I would hope that that's the legacy that I am also giving to my own kids, in order to explore and develop and grow and be who they become. And I think that's pretty much sums up for me in a nutshell, without going on for hours and hours, who my mom was. And I really do appreciate all of you who have been very important in her life. She loved all of you dearly and held you in her heart, always, whether she could speak it or not. It was there. So I'm going to wrap with that. Thank you.
Let me catch my breath for a second. I knew there was a reason I wanted to go first, because that's a hard act to follow. But here we go. So like flippantly, when thinking about what I wanted to say, I just want to start with like one thing about my mother that just like thought about every time and just captured her essence. And here it is. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Judith's apple pie. I mean, it was so good it could make you cry. No, especially you know this. But I know we wanted something more meaningful, even spiritual, and maybe I'll try to get into something that ticks off those boxes, but still her freaking apple pie. But the thing is, like, she had so many special talents, and she brought that talent and focus to all the things that were important in her life. Most important was her family, and probably most of all, her lovely grandchildren. And of course, she did it sort of like in a quiet, unassuming way. And in discussions that we've had in the last few days, I'm compelled to remind everybody here that she did obtain her undergraduate degree while raising 3 children, while recovering from major surgery, and while her husband was traveling for business a good portion of the time. She managed to pull that all off, and even so, she was invited to join Phi Beta Kappa as a junior. Yeah, she was seriously smart and capable. I remember, she worked at the library. I got a job at the library, so there's a lot of overlap that we did there. I remember one time, the library is doing a series of programs on Channel 6. And she hosted one, which was about one of Picasso's early paintings. And she did it all with aplomb, with poise. She knew her stuff. And afterward, I asked her, well, how did you know so much about that? She said, I'm a quick study. I mean, that's a quick answer for her, um, but yeah, she was quick study, a lot of things. Now, while at the library, she did allow me to be the unofficial, unpaid projectionist for her team in the arts and literature department that considered which movies the library would purchase for its collection. Now, we're talking about the days before video, okay? So needed someone to run the projector, put the reels on. We watched these movies and made a decision whether we were going to purchase them. Most didn't make the cut, but I had movie dates with my mom every Wednesday afternoon. We, in the midst of all this other stuff, we had some Buster Keaton, we had some Charles Chaplin. It was great. That was okay, but actually, when I was putting all this together, I wanted to sort of like focus on, like Linda did, that we've had to face all these issues that happened at the end of her lifespan. And we watched as she sank deeper and deeper into dementia. And you felt like you're standing on the shore and you cannot, and you're throwing lifelines and you're never sure whether they reach her. You know, you're never sure whether you are being able to make a meaningful connection with her and help her at this sad end of her life. And she was powerless and you feel powerless, no matter how you try to make those connections. And God bless you, Linda and Daniel, they were much better than I was at continuing that. But, okay, give me a second because I'm reaching back to some of the things in my past. My life as an undergraduate English major, I actually did a seminar on Emily Dickinson, who was one of my favorite poets, and there was one that really good. This was used in a drama on Amazon Prime called The English with Emily Blunt. Look it up if any of you are taking notes. And there was this one poem, and it really stuck with me about this is what happened to Mom. Crumbling is not an instant's act, a fundamental pause. Dilapidation's processes are organized decays. 'Tis first a cobweb on the soul, a cuticle of dust, a borer in the axis, an elemental rust. Ruin is formal, devil's work. It's consecutive and slow. Fall in an instant no man did. Slipping is crash's law. And so it was with us. We witnessed this decline. We witnessed our helplessness to halt crash's law. Now, my mother aimed to reach 98, talking recent days. This is the way she was in her 80s at the time. I think that she made this declaration that she thought 100 was too long to live, and she thought that 98 was too close to 100. 99, I'm sorry, I'm just like losing track of numbers. So she aimed for 98. That was her go-to. And you know, Mom, you made a valiant effort, and this family's so glad you did. You know, she was a linchpin for this family for so long. We all emphasize the attention and time that her mother, that Sylvia, spent on the family. And after Sylvia died, Mom picked that up and carried that baton for a long, long time. And all this while, she would bend over backwards to make sure that her children's and her grandchildren's needs were all met. So as we reminisce about her in recent days, we reach deep into that well of anecdotes and incidents, and sometimes you get them right, 99, 98. And during the service, we've invited like all of the grandchildren and anyone else who wants to come up and speak and add their recollections to this, and we'll all have like a whole bunch of stories to take away from this. But so I was thinking about there were a couple that I wanted to give to you. Just funny. The first one is just a funny remembrance that I had, which was, I think it was still in high school or college at this time, and cleaning up the kitchen, had the radio on, and the Rolling Stones song "As Tears Go By" came on. And she listened to that and she says, I like that song. I'm like, Mom, and so it started opening up that maybe, our battleground over musical and popular cultural tastes weren't as dramatic as we thought. I'll also note that she liked Let It Be, so there's some balance between Beatles and Rolling Stones there. Now, here's the second and deeply personal story. I don't know if I've ever shared this one before. And it has to do with how much she felt for us, and at the same time, how her own personality felt like she couldn't necessarily show it all the time. I'm packing up to leave Colorado to go to law school in New York. And the morning I'm leaving, she's working that day, and I'm staying at her house as I finish this preparation. And I find that there's a greeting card taped to my door. It's a Sandra Boynton card. And on the front is a picture of a very sad lizard. And inside it says, "Iguana miss you." Back at you, Mom. Back at you. Okay, I'm going to hand this off to my brother, and then everyone else who wants to come up and speak. But the younger you are, the longer you get to speak. That's the rule. So take advantage of it. We want all your voices to be heard, and all your voices to share your recollections of Judith Axelrad, our mom, our grandmother, a force of nature. We love you and we miss you.
Before Daniel speaks, we are going to do Kaddish. Thank you to the 10 YouTube viewers. This is kind of a break for Kaddish. Thank you.
Bear with me as I figure out how to open the computer. Thank you all for being here. Thank you to those who joined us specifically so we could have a minion to do the Kaddish. Thank you to my brother and sister. It's easiest to go third, not just today, but in life. When my mom graduated from college, I was there at the graduation. That was 1971. Pretty sure it was 1971. So I was 8 years old, give or take. I was also at graduation for her master's degree 1 year later, 1972. Other than remembering that I was there, all I remember of those days, those ceremonies, was boredom. Boy, I was sitting there in the audience with my grandma, and it just seemed to go on and on and on. Of course, at the time, being that young, I didn't know how remarkable that occasion was. I really don't think there were many women with 3 children graduating from college in 1971. Mom took 18 years to finish college. So any of those of you who have been or are entering longer than the 4-year program, take heart. You're probably not, well, maybe you will match 18 years. Grandma did it first. And it took her 18 years because after starting college, she got married. She had Linda and Michael. And then after a pause, me. But while doing all the things she needed to do to take care of her family, Mom never wavered in her determination to get that degree. And then she started working at the library in 1972. She was 37, starting her career. And this was 1972, which I haven't looked it up, the statistics, but I'm pretty sure that was pretty early in the wave of moms entering the workforce. Not too much longer after that, by the late 1970s, most middle-class families could not get by without both parents working. But our mom was way ahead of the curve. She worked full-time and took care of her kids and shopped and prepared meals and baked and sewed and spent lots of time with her mom as well. And as you've heard, as you know, she was a librarian at the Denver Public Library, but she wasn't just a librarian. I think Hava said yesterday, used the term, she was a rock star librarian. For new librarians at the Denver Public Library at the time, the first year was considered a training period where you'd work 6 months at the main library, then 6 months at a branch library. But shortly after she started at the library, she was tapped to work on a special program, a special series of exhibits and presentations in the main library. And she was so good at this that her supervisor extended her assignment on that project. I think it was actually multiple extensions, as I recall. I mean, how young was I? I don't know, but it was definitely a lot longer than 6 months. And ultimately, library management said, Judy really needs to finish her training. She needs to go do that 6 months in a branch library. And so her supervisor was directed, you've got to let her go. Let her get on with her career. You can't just keep her to herself for your particular program, however important. So from the start, she stood out. Not too many years later, the library was facing significant budget cuts, and our mom was selected to speak before the city council about how these cuts would impact library services. She wasn't a manager. She wasn't even that senior among the librarians at the time, but she is the one who, she's also somebody who didn't usually do public speaking, but she is the one who's seen as a great person to speak on behalf of the library and behalf of the community to talk about what these budget cuts would mean for library services and the impact that would have on the community. So I don't know how she was chosen, but looking back, I think it was probably because she is a person who so strongly believed in public service and the role of public institutions. She was selected for other special assignments during her career at the library. She was on the committee that screened architects for the expansion of the library that selected Michael Graves, who designed the library expansion that was completed in 1994. One other part of her public service at the library, Mom would take flowers from the gardens at Xanthia Court into the library and put together dramatic artistic flower arrangements that she put on display in the public spaces of the library for all persons to enjoy. She really had an artistic streak, which is well hidden, and is also part of her idea of serving the public. And it was no mistake that she chose to become a librarian. All her life, she would seek knowledge in all areas and was always surrounded by books. She was not just a librarian, but a library patron, as you've heard already. Mom kept the entire family supplied in library books. Every week she would bring home 10 or so books to share amongst her mom, Uncle Michael, Aunt Donna, our dad, and those books would get passed around. And she always made sure that everybody had good books to read. And when I was in high school, this extended to me, I'd tell her an assignment that I had to write a report for history, say, and that's just, telling her what was going on at school. The next day, I'd have a pile of 10 to 20 books that might help me write this report. This happened not once. This was like a regular thing. And so, I did pretty well in high school. She had a lot to do with it, with those books and lots of other aspects. She wasn't just a librarian, and you've heard some of this already, but when I think about Mom's weekly schedule, it's just remarkable how much she packed in. Her regular schedule through most of her career, on Mondays, she worked a late day. So she was at the library from 12:30 to 9 p.m. Tuesday, she was back at work for her regular day, which was something like 7:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Just less than 12 hours off in between shifts, and then worked 10 hours the next day. That was not the end of her Tuesday. She came home, she had dinner with us, and then was off to play bridge with her mom for the evening. That was about 7:30 to 10 p.m. or so. Then finally, when she got home from that, her Tuesday was over. That's not the end of the week, that's just Monday and Tuesday. On Wednesday, I think she had a couple of different schedules during the course of her career. Sometimes on Wednesday, she worked another full day. So back in there, 7:30 to 5:30 the next day. Or at times, her schedule had Wednesday as a day off. That's a day off from the library, not a day off for Mom. Grocery shopping, sewing, cleaning, almost certainly bake something during the afternoon, then cook dinner for all of us, a really nice dinner. So that gets you through Wednesday. Cheeseburgers and French fries, excellent French fries. I just did not appreciate it at the time, how much she was really packing in, but she just kept going and going. And I think what drove her engine was, yes, her love of family, as we've all talked about, but also constantly seeking greater knowledge and serving the public is all interwoven, all critical parts of what she's doing. And as you've heard, she loved to bake. Some of her greatest hits, apple cake and honey cake and pound cake and marble cake and poppy seed cake, secret MVP of her cakes, in my opinion. Lots of chocolate desserts, strawberry shortcake, cheesecake, challah and cinnamon bread and bagels. For a while, she was making the most amazing bagels like you've never seen. Apple pie, yeah. the world's greatest apple pie. So many types of chocolate pie, sugar cookies and marble bars, pie crust cookies, chocolate cherry cookies and walnut tarts, and of course, chocolate chip cookies always. And for the 4th of July, red, white, and blue flan with blueberries and strawberries. Michael talked about her apple pie. In my view, to really do full justice to Mom's baking, we need to talk about her challah. A Judith challah was reliably 10 out of 10 for flavor, for texture, and the perfect crust. Not only did it taste fantastic, but for special occasions, her challah rose to the level of a work of art. She made some loaves of challah that were just huge. I mean, big as a card table. That's only a slight exaggeration, but I really think the only limit on the size of those loaves of challah was the size of the oven. Even rabbis would say, whoa, that is a spectacular challah. Mom lived exactly 90 years and 1 month. I think she will live on in all of us who loved her. In the last year or so, talking to her on the phone, I always struggled with what to say, because it was mostly me talking. But I knew the one thing she would want to hear the most about is her grandchildren. The one thing I would always say to her is that all your kids and all your grandkids are doing great. And we are all carrying on with all the values and all the principles that you lived by and instilled in us. I think that to live like Mom wanted us to live means to live ethically, be aware of what's going on in our community and the world around us, and show compassion for those in need. Always seeking knowledge, be curious, stay determined, keep working towards your goals, love your family, and care for your family. I know that Mom lives on. I see Mom in Eli and Jacob and Lily and Jesse and Noah. What I see are young adults who live ethically, who love one another, who treasure their relationships with their siblings and their cousins. Your grandma was always very proud of you, and I know that she would be extremely proud of the people you are today.
Putting this together, the service today, obviously, not a whole lot of the traditional elements, but Mom had one particular psalm that she loved, and it's in the Haggadah. So we're going to read it today, and you'll remember this from years and years and years of Seders. When Israel went forth from Egypt, the house of Jacob from a people of barbarous language, Judah became its sanctuary, Israel its dominion. The sea beheld it and fled, and Jordan was driven back. The mountains skipped like rams. The mountains skipped like rams, the hills like lambs. What aileth thee, O sea, that thou didst flee? O Jordan, that thou wast driven back? Ye mountains, wherefore should you skip like rams? and ye hills like lambs? From the presence of the Lord, the earth shrunk back. From the presence of the God of Jacob, who converteth the rock into a pool of water, the flint into a fountain of waters. Then we raise our cups. Thanks.
It's already been said. Thank you, everybody, for being here to mourn and celebrate my grandmother. Judith Axelrad was such a ubiquitous part of my life growing up that it's very difficult for me to boil her down to a few stories. So I think I'm just going to do my best to kind of hit all the broad strokes. Like my aunt, I wrote some stuff down, but this is going to be a bit scattershot, so please bear with me. It's really funny when you're young, you kind of lack the perspective to understand just how much someone is doing for you as you grow up. It's hard to understand how integral a single person can be to your world as a whole. And my grandmother was a pillar who propped me up. She would take me to and from school, preschool, elementary school, sometimes middle school and high school, emphasis on the high school, because when I was learning how to drive, I think I totaled her car twice in that period of time. She was, for all intents and purposes, my second mother. God, I spent so much time with her and Grandpa when I was young. I can remember in preschool, much to the ire of all my classmates, every Thursday I got picked up early by Grandma and Grandpa so I could spend the afternoon with them. After school, she made sure that I was well fed, that I was comfortable, that I was entertained. Whole lot of junk food at Grandma's house, whether it was some dessert that she baked for me or just boatloads of ice cream and potato chips before I did my homework. As I got older, a whole lot of my development kind of took place in her house, the house that I'm proud to say I made my permanent home right now. And like many young adults or adolescents, I was kind of a little shit. I filled that house up with screaming at video games, at screaming when I was practicing my music, at some ungodly sounds when I was practicing my music, or just the sheer frustration of growing up and all the pressure that came with that. But through all of that, no matter how unbearable I could be, she never screamed back. She never judged me. She was always there to support me, to be a safety net. I remember even I don't quite recall whether this was near the end of high school or near the end of college, but for a large period of my life, music kind of occupied my world, and it got to a point where I felt like I was kind of drowning, that I wasn't good enough for myself, that my world was crumbling around me, and being the emotionally intelligent high school or college student I was at the time, I internalized it. I held it all in and tried to project a lot of confidence there, but one day it just broke, and I told my grandmother I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I was supposed to do. And without a second's hesitation. She told me that no matter what I chose, no matter what path I took in life, that she would support me no matter what. As it's been said, she was an absolute tour de force when it came to her family. She cooked exorbitant amounts of food, something I'm proud to say. Following COVID, me and my brothers and I have kind of took up that torch. My dad and my brother can tell you that not few times I've cooked for everybody. There's been tons and tons of leftovers. Like to think that I pulled that from my grandmother. It's been said before, she possessed a chortling laughter that was equal parts infectious, unnerving, and absolutely rapturous. I don't know if I have much more to say other than Grandma, I'm going to do my best to make you proud. I love you, and I'm really going to miss you. Thank you.
I didn't exactly prepare anything specific on what to say, but I'm just gonna say what comes to mind right now. Judith was the last of my grandparents to die, and I feel that weight. I for a long time I've had a strange relationship with death, kind of a preoccupation in some ways, and I really, yeah, just feel the weight of her passing, and I think that you know, we're all born into this world, and we are already, you know, halfway into the next, and I think, and for better or for worse, my strongest memories of Judith are like the last few years when she's declining, and I wish that I could more strongly remember all of the life and livelihood that she had and all the care she gave, but I most strongly remember her decline, and it was gradual but noticeable, and it was hard to see. Every time that we would gather as a family in Denver, we would go and see her and sit with her, and we would look at photos and share stories and so on. And it was, you know, I think it was hard for a lot of people because trying to communicate with someone who wants to communicate back or maybe isn't fully getting it is difficult. And it was also a bit frustrating for me because I don't like, yeah, I don't like seeing her unable to communicate what it is that she's trying to communicate, and there just being a disconnect between the parties involved. And yeah, that was hard for me. But at the same time, I don't know, I saw something. I think that, well, the last time that I really strongly remember visiting her, she kept saying over and over again about how much she loved us. She kept saying, I love you all so much. She would just keep repeating that phrase over and over again. And she had this look in her eyes, like it was kind of a desperation, really. Just she was desperate for us to understand the importance of that statement, that she loves us all so much. And I feel like I think I kind of understood what she was trying to say. At the end of her life, I mean, you don't have much to hold on to, and you really understand what's important and and I just got this, like, I don't know, just looking at her and hearing her, I got this visceral feeling and understanding of like this is all that matters. Like we're all going through life, and we go through our day to day and have these distractions and fall into different patterns. And I think that in her entire life, she never really strayed far from the focus of family and being there for each other. And I think that she wanted us all to be there for each other. I think she wanted us to know she was glad that we were there for her in her final days. And I think that she wanted us to know that she was there for us even then. And I'm very grateful for her. I think that she instilled in our family this kind of, just the importance of family, the importance of being there for each other, the importance of living ethically, of sharing experiences, of gathering people and having connection. And I can see that having been passed on. I think that I see that in my mom. She's tried very hard to bring that as well, and just the care about family and always being there for each other, no matter what. And that means good times and bad. That means baking and laughing, and also in the bad times when people need to be heard. And I just feel very grateful for her.
I hadn't planned on saying anything, but I think I occupied an unusual niche in the family where I wasn't her kid, but she was still an integral part of my daily life. And I wanted to say a few words on behalf of my father, who hopefully is watching. Judy was the golden child, and my father will be the first to say that. She was the first, she was the favorite, she was the best behaved one, and the smart one. And my father really admired that and appreciated that and strove to keep up with her. Some of the pictures here show it, not all. I have stacks of photos of the two of them when they were young. And she was a wonderful big sister, and she read to him, and she was always there. My favorite photo, which I didn't include, is actually moments after she beamed him in the face with a snowball, and he's standing there covering his eyes, and she's just smiling. The first Thanksgiving that we had without Aunt Judy was really hard for my dad, because he realized that he had had Thanksgiving with his sister every year of his life. Even there may have been one or two during college that they didn't, but They both lived in Denver and they were together their whole lives. And she was remarkable and she was wonderful to everyone. And she tried very hard not to impose her opinions on anyone unless she felt strongly about them, in which case her opinion was the most important one. And she just was wonderful. You know, I spent a lot of time with her growing up, and when I had Zeke, I had the privilege of taking care of her during the transition time as we realized how bad the dementia was getting. I spent a lot of time with her, and I spent a lot of time with her in emergency rooms. And when Zeke was born, the day after we got out of the hospital, that was where we went. We went to go visit her because that's what she would have wanted. And I just wanted to add in, you know, we've been very fortunate to have some caregivers who have been tremendously wonderful for the past many years with her. And they also actually work with my father. And Carmen in particular has talked to my dad and talked to me, and she's spent the most time with Aunt Judy in recent years. And she knows that Aunt Judy knew who all of you were, and she knew who the family was, and she appreciated whatever anybody did and any visits. And even though she couldn't express it and she had some bad days, Carmen was absolutely certain that she knew everyone and loved everyone, no matter what else she was going through. And I just want to make sure you all know that.
Well, excuse me as I compose myself. I am the granddaughter, the one, the and growing up as the token girl, I know that there are some in the crowd that may know that feeling. Can be a little tough, but it is strange because there is such a deep, deep legacy of strong women that have been such a big presence in my life. And I would like to start by saying how unbelievably proud I am to be a part of that legacy and to be a daughter of a woman who is so great, and to be a part of such a beautiful family who not only do I love, but they love me as deeply and as truly as she would have hoped. And I keep coming back to a moment right before as we are calling it, the decline, where we are all sitting in the living room, and it was right around when my family, or I guess we're all family, but my mom, my brother, and I were about to leave to go to the airport to go back to San Diego. And we were all sat there together, and there was a pause, and my grandma would look at all of us, and she was overtook, and she just said, I am so lucky. And that really sticks with me because her whole life's work was invisible love that she shared with our family, with her community, imbuing knowledge and care in a soft, gentle way. That is so overwhelming when you take a moment to step back and see truly how much of an impact she has made on not only us, but the people that she serviced as well. And like I said, I'm just so proud of my uncles, my mother, my cousins, my family. But I do want to recognize that that luck was not found out of thin air. That was built meticulously through the strong matriarchs in our family. Whether it be my grandmother, my great-grandmother, my aunt. And we are here and sharing in this love, sharing in this moment to support one another because of that dedication and devotion that they have shown us. And we hope to echo throughout our lives and to share in the values that they have brought to us. And I love my family, and it is all thanks to her. And of course to all of you. So thank you all for being here. And I wish I had a quippy anecdote to share. Well, actually, maybe I do. Thank you. I have this one very vivid memory that I come back to, which kind of leads nowhere. But I remember when I was a kid, my grandmother would spend a lot of time in the kitchen, baking and making sure that we were all fed, which, as many people have mentioned, is just unbelievable, invisible labor that we can now recognize. But I remember standing in the kitchen, and I'm dazed as I'm watching her stand up on a countertop trying to reach the tallest shelf in the kitchen. And I don't know if if people haven't been in the kitchen. It is a very tall ceiling and the cabinets go just as tall. And I remember my mom rushing in and yelling, "What are you doing? Get down from there." And grandma was just like, "Oh, I can do it myself. I'm fine. I'm fine." And I'm just there in a daze because I don't think I've ever seen my mom yell at her mom before. And I don't know where I am in the situation. And I think that I come back to that a lot because although she would like to do things in her own way, and she might be very stubborn in some of the ways that she was, we were always there to either be dazed or concerned or just appreciate just her audacity and her courage. And I love her dearly, and I love my family and the friends here that are here to support us as well, and the caregivers again. she really made a family wherever she went, whoever she was with. And I think that's beautiful. And I'm very, very thankful. And I think that is all I have to say. So thank you.
This thing on? I didn't really prepare or write anything for this service. I think I just want to speak from the heart and to quote one of my favorite movies, Anchorman. The last 3 days I've been in a glass box of emotion. And just before I get into Grandma, I really want to extend my love and appreciation and my gratitude for you four, Dad, Linda, Daniel, Hava. Obviously, Grandma's decline has been absolutely brutal, or was brutal on all of us. And you guys stepped up and really handled all the logistics and the handling and just everything that went into it. Hava, you have gone above and beyond as far as keeping us together and organized despite everything that you have gone through. I know it's been rough. Daniel, Linda, Dad, I love the three of you more than you guys could ever know. I'm so grateful for you guys. As far as Grandma, I try not to really remember the sadness at the end. Unfortunately, those are the most potent memories I have right now. Because her decline really started kind of as I was becoming a more lucid, self-aware, mature adult, if you can even call a 15-year-old that. I had the privilege of just getting to live with her for a large majority of my life and always be in the same city. A huge part of me feels guilty as a grandson. I mean, I'm the baby of the family. And I was growing up, I was always kind of less focused on what my grandma was doing for me between all the invisible labor, as Lily put it. I always wanted to do whatever Jesse was doing, instead of focusing on anybody else. And Jesse was a little shithead when we were growing up. Excuse my French. I know, Jesse, I know either you're watching right now or you'll watch the YouTube video, but I love you. You're my best friend. But I mean, I gotta give 6-year-old me some grace. You know, I don't know what the hell's going on in the world. But I feel guilty as I grew up, right? As I became more appreciative of who Grandma was, it was as she was fading from me. And I really wish that I gave a more concerted effort in her last days to spend time with her. It was more so the guilt and the pain I was putting on myself of not visiting her as much as I should have was less painful than when I was in the same room as her, because she did not recognize me any longer. And it's part of where my gratitude for you guys comes from, because I can't imagine how hard that would be just as her children. But she was the best, frankly put. She took me to every baseball practice. She never watched a game because she frankly didn't care for sports too much. but she took me to the ends of Colorado sometimes, it felt like, to take me to mundane practices and games. She took me to all of my bar mitzvah practices and trainings. She cooked for me all the time. And I called Jesse a little shit, but I was a little shit because I was picky. She made all of these extravagant meals that, frankly, I don't know what they tasted like. And despite the copious amount of hours she was spending in the kitchen, she would go from 12 to 5 making whatever dessert, and then 5 to 7 making dinner. And somehow in that time, she managed to make me some rendition of just the blandest meal you could imagine. Some buttered noodles or hot dog or something, right? And I guess I never really got to say like thank you as I wanted to. And maybe to a fault of my own, I've let that kind of eat away at me in many ways, which I know I shouldn't do. And I know she loved me, but in a lot of ways, I feel like I didn't get the privilege of getting to experience her as like my own person. I always felt like I was a little kid when I was around her, but looking back at it, I was thankful for it. And I hope she knew, because I love spending time with her, and she would appease me. Me and her as like fundamental human beings, wouldn't say that we had a lot in common. She loved to read. I hated books. She loved to cook. I didn't like food, But I did like junk food, and I was a $1.10 soaking wet for a while there, despite all the junk food I was eating. She'd have these massive tubs of mint chocolate chip ice cream, which still stands as my favorite flavor today. I would eat, quarter gallon maybe at a time. And loved her chocolate chip cookies, of course. And kind of a funnier thing that maybe Eli, Jesse, and my dad would know about is those god awful onion crisps. When there was nothing else in the house, we would take a handful and then regret it instantly. It feels like I didn't have a lot of, believe it or not, individual memories of just me and her doing things together, which feels odd because I spent a lot of time with her. I was always with, my dad or my brothers or my family, but I'll tell a couple stories that I shared with my family yesterday. And my favorite one, I think, is my first memory of being validated as just a human. This was before Grandpa Saul had passed away, and I was probably 3 or 4. Both Jesse and Eli were in school at this point in time, so I was left alone because my mom and dad were working away, supporting our family. And so it was me, my grandpa, and my grandma, and they took me to the zoo that day. And I don't know where this hat came from, but I had a Batman hat, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. Super simple, it's a black hat with the Batman logo. And grandma gave it to me because it was really warm and hot that day and sunny. I remember that vividly. She gave it to me. We saw all the animals. I specifically remember seeing the lions and the tigers because I was like, oh, those are the most badass animals. Like those are the boy animals that I should be liking. And that was cool. And we took the train ride, and she got me some chicken nuggets to eat. And I remember walking back to the car. We got back in the car, and I still had the Batman hat on. And for whatever reason, I said, Grandma. She was like, what, honey? I was like, I kept the hat on the entire day. I was like, that's crazy, isn't it? Like, and whoop-de fucking do. Like, But grandma was like, that is incredible, sweetie. I'm so proud of you. I love you. And I was like, I felt so validated in that moment. I didn't know what that feeling was as a child, obviously. And my grandpa gave me a hard sour candy right after that, spit it out immediately. Um, But I want to say that might be my earliest memory of my grandma. Um, there was another time when she took me and Jesse to go see Kung Fu Panda. It's a pretty indie movie. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. But she took me and Jesse to see it at this like special theater. I don't remember what it was called or where it is, but it had like food service. So like we're watching Kung Fu Panda. She orders us a pizza. Me and Jesse are like, that's the coolest thing that we've ever seen in our entire lives. Um, and she, she probably didn't care for it at all. Like, but we left, and it turns out she had left her keys or locked her keys in the car. So we were stuck, and me and Jesse were having like an existential crisis about it. We thought the world was like over. We're like, how are we gonna get home? Like, where's mom? Where's dad? Like, what's happening? And she was like, chill the heck out, y'all. Like we'll be okay. She takes me and Jesse back inside, and she orders each of us like these pitchers of like root beer floats. And I was like, what is this concoction? Like, um, and I was like, this is the tastiest thing ever. And, and then, AAA or whoever comes and unlocks the car. But I like really remember that vividly. And she just really speaks to her. She really did anything to please her loved ones. I mean, for any of y'all that know me, I'm an absolute sports fanatic, right? And that might be underselling it. I was like, this was probably like 2008 or 2009. I was really into baseball in the Colorado Rockies. And I remember one day, like, just sitting with her, like, having lunch at the table, just throwing numbers and statistics at grandma. She has no idea what I'm talking about. But she acted interested. And that was really important to me. And made me feel just really good about her. And instead of focusing on like my negative feelings over the last few days, just with me feeling like I wasn't enough in some ways for her because I was the youngest, and I didn't really get to spend like what I might call quality time with her. I look back, and the more I look at the pictures that we've been coming through, the more I've been talking with all the family members just about all of our memories. I know she did love me, and I know that I shouldn't tell myself some of these more negative things. And I don't know, there's so many more things I was thinking about while sitting in that chair that I want to say and that I want to yap about that maybe I'm drawing a blank because I want to do her justice and let her know, because I know she's here in this room with us listening, and just how much I loved her. How much I appreciate her for being mom number 2 when she didn't have to. Like, what did me, Jesse, Eli, Lily, and Jacob do to deserve someone that loved and cared for us that much? She did her best to always make family a forefront, and that's really, I think, rubbed off on all of us. I've had a lot of people drop out of my life in the last year, which has been devastating to a T. But I think about what grandma kind of taught me about life, and that family is always going to be there for me, and that no matter what I say or what I do, no matter how vulnerable I get, I'm always going to be heard. There's always going to be a set of arms waiting to hug me, and voices telling me that they love me. And I think a lot of that, or all that, came from grandma. And I wish that I had more real memories of her. I wish I had more real conversations with her about the world instead of me just telling her about how awesome it was I was wearing a hat an entire day. I wish I could talk to her about real things and know more about her personality. I knew her as a grandma. I didn't know her as a person. I didn't know her as Judith. I hear things, and I was asking my dad earlier today when we were standing in that room over there, just looking at the slideshow. I was like, what was your relationship with grandma? Because all I know her as was just a bubbly person who would laugh for about 17.9 minutes straight. Which I loved about her. Like, it cracked me up. Like, at some point I wouldn't even know what we were laughing about. I was like, and her apple pie was great. I think we've talked about it, we've praised it, and I think it's still undersold because I didn't really like fruit or vegetables until I was like 16, 17 years old, right? I had no palate. And yet I was a youngin eating her apple pie. I don't think there's any other word I could say except for it was godly. And I just want to keep living on in her memory. Like, I know that I can't be a perfect person. I know that I'll never be a perfect person. But she accepted all of us at our faults. Because she was like that. I don't think I ever heard her yell or get angry. Actually, scratch that. I have one memory of her getting angry at me, and it actually devastated me for a while. And it was totally earned. So I was about 7, I think, and Jesse had brought home a school project where he had to like knit a bracelet or something, right? So like he was almost done with it. It was this colorful rainbow bracelet. Surely he was proud of it. I let my intrusive thoughts take over. I took a pair of scissors, I cut it in half. So maybe Jesse wasn't the little shit. Maybe it was me ultimately. And I cut it in half. And grandma like was coming down the stairs from her room as she saw me because I was in the living room on what was the $15,000 couch apparently. That we gave away for nothing, Eli. And I just remember she got so mad at me. She told me to go to timeout in my room. And I just remember I was crying. But it was deserved. But I think that's the only time I remember her getting mad at me or any of me and my brothers. Because like you guys said, he was noisy as heck. With the saxophone and the flute. I hated it. Just to watch like my Minecraft YouTube videos, I would sit in the closet in my bedroom with the closet door closed so I could hear the audio. And she never said anything. And frankly, she probably enjoyed it thoroughly. And anything we asked for ever, she would deliver. Like me and my brothers used to play on the computer, just video games, whatever it was, all day long. And we, maybe we would play video games for 3 days straight and then come to grandma. First words we speak to her all week, just be like, hey grandma, can you get us this video game now? And she wouldn't even know what it was. She'd be like, yep. Ordered, it'll be here next week. So many stuffed animals. Yeah, we had a closet full of stuffed animals. I remember she bought me a T-Rex from the museum one time. I was like, that's so cool. She's the best person I think that may have ever existed. Truthfully. And I loved her so dearly. I didn't tell her enough, and that breaks my heart. But I loved her. She didn't care that she accepted us for who I was, for who all of us were. And I wish more people could be like that. She's probably the reason that our family has empathy. that we care so much about each other. And I may be yapping, I may be repeating things, but I really did love her so much, and I've been devastated all week, or since my dad called me on Monday morning. I broke down immediately. And it's been great having everybody around, being supportive of each other, because if I didn't, that would be more of a wreck than I was. And this is like my first major person that I've lost, that I was as close to. And it's been a whirlwind, and tried to ignore it in ways by joking and laughing and being silly and using whatever forms of escapism I can find. But I loved her, and all I want to do for the rest of my life is live a life that would make her proud, because she didn't get to see me as an adult. She didn't get to see me in my final form. The last probably lucid memory she has of me is a 15-year-old high schooler who doesn't know anything about anything. All he wants to do is hang out with his friends and party. Family is low on the priority list. And had I known how little time I had left, and I really realized how fragile life can be at times. I like to think that she can hear me, that she can hear my thoughts. And I've been talking to her the last couple of days, just telling her how much she's missed, how much I love her, and that I hope she could live vicariously through me. And maybe I'll start reading more books for her. But I love everybody in this room, everybody that came out and wanted to celebrate her life. Wish I could tell her about my relationship. She never got to see any of us married. She'll never get to see any of her great grandbabies. There's so many things I want to share with her, because there's so many things she shared with me. It feels unfair. Like I just want to give back, because she gave so much. Like I want to cook her a meal. I want to give her a present. I want to give her a hug. I want to give her a hug.
Okay, I'm gonna wrap this up, the interlude up, because I wanted to say a few words about Judith. Obviously, I was an outsider to the Axelrads as I became an Axelrad, and I didn't know what I was getting into, to tell you the truth. For a family that didn't have a lot of outward displays of affection, there was not a lot of hugging or kissing that went on that I saw between Saul and Judith, but there was so much love language going on in this family that I didn't even recognize as it was happening around me. And as we've talked, one of the main love languages was food. The other love language was gifts. Oh my gosh, this family and Judith at the helm, Valentine's Day became like the biggest thing in my life. Like I'd never realized that you gave gifts to each other at Valentine's Day. And all of a sudden I'm getting from this woman I barely knew within a year or so of having married her son, this lingerie. She bought me lingerie. It was gorgeous as a Valentine's Day gift. It's like, okay, well, what is Michael telling you? But there it was. It was like, I was trying to unravel the mystery of who Judith was. I still never fully unraveled it in all the time that I knew her. But she enabled so much of my own family to be who they are and to literally grow, because we had Eli. He was a handful, and quite a handful, and cried nonstop for the first 2 months of his life. And here I was in a new city, not knowing anybody. And the only people I knew were Judith and Saul and Michael and this baby who wouldn't stop crying. And these grandparents were all over. They were there. They would have slept in the same room as us, I think, if they could have. They just wanted to hold this baby, care for this baby. And, I didn't know what I was doing. And I didn't know whether I should push them away or welcome them in. But they were always there. And in the end, they were the godsend that got, I think, Michael and I through being first-time parents. We moved to Denver because we had a discussion of what happens post LA. And it's like, well, we can go to Pennsylvania and live near my parents, but they wouldn't do anything for us because they were very busy, active people. And I knew as grandparents, it would be like a once a month thing. And Michael said, well, Denver is really cool and my parents will be there. And boy, did I not even realize what he meant. Not only were they there, we essentially moved in with them. I mean, we were there so much. They fed us, they cared for my children, they did taxi service for all the kids. I know, Linda, you didn't get to have that, and I got more than my share, but they were amazing grandparents. And I have to say, the only reason why we continued onward after Eli is because of Judith. Judith, and the story you told, Daniel, about, high school projects and, all of a sudden 10 books would appear. Well, we were having trouble with this kid who never slept. And the doctor was like, you have to get them on a routine. And we're like, I don't know what that means. And it was like, do the days and then do the nights. So Judith is listening to all of this. And she brings home the one thing that we needed, that we didn't know we needed, which was a VHS tape on how to get your child to sleep through the night from the Denver Public Library. And it's like, okay, well, we watched the tape, and I swear he was born in early August. By Thanksgiving, this kid was sleeping through the night, was like so calmed down, was this delightful little Gerber baby all of a sudden. And it was all thanks to Judith and her research skills at the Denver Public Library. And we used that same tape and technique. And I don't think we would have had a second one, let alone the surprise third one, without her. And in fact, we talked quite a bit about like, should we have a second? Well, we have Grandma and Grandpa here, they'll help. It's like, okay, let's do it. And then of course, 3, just for fun. And they were there for the entire ride and made my life as a mother and a full-time worker bee who was a workaholic and oftentimes, didn't know that maybe work didn't come first, She was always there. And she was the mother, the second mother to my kiddos. And they're the better for it, her and Saul, because they came as a unit. And, you know, Judith Ann and Saul were amazing. And I never really got to fully thank either of them in their lifetimes. And I feel very sad about that. By the time Judith entered her decline, I didn't really understand what was happening because I wasn't as a part of the circle and seeing her on a daily basis like I used to. So I never did get the chance to tell her how much I appreciated everything she did and Saul did for my beautiful boys and me, to enable me to become a full resident and contributor in Denver as well. And I'm always grateful to the Axelrad family for that. You're beautiful, and I so enjoy being a part of it. So thank you, Judith Ann, for everything.
She's okay, and we're gonna turn off the live feed now. Thank you, everybody.